Well, just after 9 o'clock. A good evening to you if you've just joined us. You're watching Newsfeed PM, the late edition with myself, Naledi Molo. We've got 2 more hours together. We'll start off with this story. President Cyril Ramaphosa assured the families of South African soldiers deployed to the DRC that troops are receiving full support on the ground. He also sent his condolences to the families of 13 soldiers killed by M23 rebels in Goma over the past week. Newzroom Afrika's Veronica Makhoali has more from the Union buildings.
President Cyril Ramaphosa expressed his condolences, saying the country bows its head to the heroic and gallant fight these soldiers waged for peace. He assured the families that all necessary support is being provided and that the process of repatriating the fallen soldiers remains underway. However, his words have come amid growing frustration from families who say they have struggled to get clear and timely communication about their loved ones. Some have described their pain, saying they only found out about the situation through WhatsApp before the army even reached out. I'm now joined by the National Secretary of the South African National Defence Unions, Makhoali. The President speaking about the process to repatriate some of those family members, saying all necessary support has been given. Is that what we are actually getting and reflecting from the family members?
Well, that's not what we heard from the family members. The family members are rather in the dark, and so are we as a union. We've heard of no concrete plans on how to recover and repatriate the remains of these fallen soldiers. And quite frankly, it will be a very difficult task given the situation that the base finds itself in, unless there are some talks that the public is not aware of and some agreements have been reached.
I think, one of the biggest things that has come out from this statement, apart from the president, almost having that pressure to given, calls for him to address this situation, it has, parts of it that has not really spoken to what South Africans and the families of those on the ground have been asking for. And that's a realistic and transparent, conversation of what is actually taking place on the ground. As you've mentioned, many of the families have been coming to you as a union for clarity and not the South African National Defence Force able to give those answers.
Yes, it's very unfortunate, that a person in a leadership position, any leadership position, should be pressured to provide whatever should have been provided by true leadership. All the families are asking for, and as a union, we started asking questions already last week, and the cooperation we got was also very poor. It's a very unfortunate situation. The Defence Force is a big organization. It's got enough capable people who can communicate effectively. There just needs to be a plan whereby people are almost daily updated. We don't need the detail, and we don't need to have strategic information. At least if someone at some level can issue a report daily to say, look, there's a line that you can call. We've got a roll call for every day. We can tell you whether your family member is okay, whether they're injured, they're with us, or whatever the case may be. In fact, the SNDF is in constant radio contact with its authorities, its own generals in Pretoria. And so they know what the situation is on the ground on a moment-by-moment basis.
And speaking about timeframes, as you've mentioned that families have yet to talk about the repatriation process, if you can, just, tell us just how some of these families are bearing the brunt of just being in limbo and, as you've mentioned, getting such little information about what has happened to those that, of course, passed away and others that are injured.
I think it's a very, very sensitive issue for understandable reasons. I think if the Defence Force could at least, I know they are in contact with these family of the deceased soldiers, but if they could at least just update those families, even if it is in private, about what the plans are, what the repatriation plans are. Because given the situation, any repatriation would be as difficult as extracting the troops that are there. Right. So if there are special plans afoot or agreements being made, then at least communicate that in private even to the families that are involved. I think at least the families and the deceased soldiers' memory deserves that respect.
Well, that was the union's Makhoali speaking about the situation, specifically about the repatriation process, saying families are yet to receive any type of timeline or when this process will take place with the South African National Defence Force. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Veronica Makhoali at the Union Buildings in Pretoria.